kundi upang pagkaisahin kami at nang maipagmalaki namin ang aming mga sarili at makapagbuo kami ng sariling pagkakakilanlan bilang isang bayan. Ipakita po ninyo sa amin na ang pag-unawa sa aming sariling kultura ay nagpapayaman sa aming pananaw ukol sa nakaraan. Tulungan po ninyo kami na maging tulay upang magkaunawaan ng akademya at ang karaniwang tao. Naway matuto kami sa mga aral ng nakaraan upang magamit ito sa paglikha ng mga solusyon sa aming mga suliranin sa kasalukuyan at nang maabot namin ang isang magandang bukas. Sa kabila ng mga biyaya at kakayahang ibinigay po ninyo sa amin, naway manatili kaming mapagkumbaba at makita na ang aming gawain na ito ay isang paraan upang makapaglingkod kami sa aming mga estudyante, sa aming mga mambabasa at sa publiko. Gayunpaman, naway nakikita namin ang aming sarili bilang mga sisidlan ng tunay na kaliwanagan at katwiran, hindi tagapagpagana ng kasamaan at kamangmangan. Naway ang amin pong pagsasalaysay sa aming nakaraan ay magkaroon ng saysay para sa bayan at nang may matutunan sila mula dito, naway mailapit namin ang kasaysayan sa mga tao tungo sa inyong lalong ikalululhati at sa ikalululhati ng bansang iyong ibinigay sa amin. Amen.
From Father Saturnino Urius University, your moderator for this afternoon's session. This is the Philippine International Quincentennial Conference with the theme, Situating the Filipino and the Philippines in 1521. This session, Early Philippine and Southeast Asian Boatbuilding and Gold Crafting Technology Conference, is hosted by Father Saturnino Urius University with Reverend Father John Christian Yu Young as convener. This is panel H, the last panel that will focus on boat building. Please be reminded of the following. Everyone is encouraged to ask questions to the speaker. For the Zoom attendees, you may use the chat box or the Q&A for this purpose. For those who are participating through FB Live, you may post your question in the comment section. You may also use the chat box or the comment section for your comments and insights about the presentation. Please observe proper decorum throughout the session. Attendees who breach guidelines will be removed from the session and barred from re-entry. Also, please refrain from posting information such as your institutional affiliation unless you are prompted to do so. Thank you very much. May I now introduce this afternoon's speaker. She is currently the museum curator and officer in charge of the Archaeology Division of the National Museum of the Philippines. Her research interest is focused on maritime trade and exchange in the prehistoric period up to the Spanish period. Most of her research has been done in Butuan and Bicol, Sorsogon. Let us all welcome Dr. Mary Jane Louise A. Balonya.
Okay. Am I clear? Can everyone hear my voice?
Yes po.
Okay. Maayong hapon sa tanan. And then good afternoon, everyone. So, is my PowerPoint being seen by the audience already?
Not yet po.
Oh, where is that? Wait lang po ha. Thanks. Share screen. Kita na po?
Yes po.
Okay, I think we're all set. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mary Jane Balonya from the National Museum of the Philippines Archaeology Division, and I will try to share with you what I have done for the past as an avenue for linking people and sharing culture. So this is part of the early Philippine and Southeast Asian boat building and gold crafting technology session wherein the FSUU convener together with the PIQC are doing it for the past days. And I'm not going to talk about gold nor boat building because we have many specialists, some of whom I have worked with, others I've met in conferences, and they can tell you more about what's going on or what has been done about studying boat building in Southeast Asia and in the Philippines in particular, and the gold activities done by small or in the local level like gold panning, and in the more industrial or commercial based. And then I would like to thank everyone, Dr. Noel, for inviting me because I said I don't think I'm in a very good position to share with anyone what I have done for the past years. But she said I can do something about it because I think it's the niche that I've tried to carve in terms of archaeological contribution into maritime trade and exchange. Okay, the abstract of the presentation is this. The location of the Philippine archipelago in Southeast Asia has greatly influenced its involvement in the maritime trade and exchange even during prehistoric times. So my study starts with all the way from Luzon in Batanes down to central Philippines and in Mindanao, as looking into possible centers for trade and exchange, shall we say, before the coming of the Western colonizers. So particularly, I'd be focusing my presentation on Butuan or in northeastern Mindanao, where I've done most of my pre-colonial studies since 2001. It doesn't mean that I'm the first one to do any study in Butuan or northeastern Mindanao. I have mentors and then my senior colleagues in the division who have done their share of doing maritime trade and exchange studies. And then it says here in my abstract, ceramics originating from China, Vietnam, and Thailand, to gold ornaments, beads, and ivory seal, as well as paraphernalia and plank-built edge-peg boats as possible sources of information on why it's possible to say that maritime trade and exchange happened in the Philippines even before we thought there was one activity like that. Okay, so the presentation of the outline is this. I'll give you a brief background on the National Museum of the Philippines, being the agent, the government's or the state's repository for everything that is considered as part of our heritage. Then second part would be the archaeological researches conducted in relation to maritime culture. And the last part would be how Butuan is considered, or I consider it as an example of a maritime trade center in pre-colonial Philippines. So this is the National Museum. If some of you have not been to Manila before, then the three buildings, I hope you can see the arrow. So one is over there, the National Museum of Natural History. And this is where I am right now, the National Museum of Anthropology. And this is the main building of the National Museum of the Philippines Central offices, which is in Manila, and this is part of the Luneta or Rizal Park. So the National Museum is a primary institution of the state for the management and development of museums and collections of national scope or significance in the areas of arts, cultural heritage, and natural history. It shall be a permanent institution in the service of the entire national community and its development, accessible to the public and not intended for profit. So there are two Republic Acts that govern us or that guides us or that makes sure that the National Museum is here to stay for another 100 years or 200 years, depending on what happens in the years to come, because we have just celebrated our 120th year last October 29, 2021. So we have Republic Act 8492, or the National Museum Act of 1998, and then the National Museum Act of 2019, or Republic Act 11333. So if you want to take a look of what is in those Republic Acts, you can just Google them and download. Okay. As part of the National Museum of the Philippines mission, it has to be an educational institution, a scientific institution, and a cultural center. And based on this, we're able to do our researches, our exhibitions, our publications, and then, of course, the technical assistance that we provide to individuals like students, practitioners, faculty members, local government units, and other agencies. So I don't have to read it to you, so you can just take a look at it. That as an educational institution, we take the lead in disseminating knowledge of Filipino cultural and historical heritage. As a scientific institution, we conduct basic and systematic research programs. We may be combining integrated laboratory and fieldwork, or sometimes only fieldwork, sometimes only laboratory work, and in consonance with other agencies and with other colleagues in the different disciplines. And of course, as a cultural center, we take the lead in the study and preservation of the nation's rich artistic and cultural heritage. Okay. Just to give you an idea that the National Museum is not a young agency of the government. It was enacted in 1901. It was established under Act number 284 as part of the Insular Museum of Ethnology, Natural History, and Commerce under the Department of Public Instruction to complement the Bureau of Non-Christian Tribes. And then fast forward to 1998, because between 1901 to 1998, it was abolished, reestablished, merged, and then separated. And then eventually in 1998, with Republic Act 8492, the National Museum Law was enacted, and it also meant the establishment of an independent national museum with the three buildings in the central complex. Then from 1998 to 2019, another Republic Act, so the Republic Act 11333, or the National Museum of the Philippines Act of 2019. Yes, even the name itself had to undergo a legislative act so that we can change it to National Museum of the Philippines. Because we cannot just say, oh, I am from the National Museum if you are in an international conference, because many participants would be saying, I'm also from the National Museum of my country. So that means we have to make it complete National Museum of the Philippines. Okay? Then another act that would be guiding the National Museum would be Republic Act number 10066, or the National Cultural Heritage Act of 2009, which says that the National Museum shall be responsible for significant movable and immovable cultural and natural properties pertaining to collections of fine arts, archaeology, anthropology, botany, geology, zoology, and even astronomy. And of course, the conservation aspect of all these collections from the different disciplines. Yes, we have to make sure that conservation is always included because if we just collect and then conservation is left behind, then there is a strong possibility that some of those would be lost because of the time element. Okay. And then another aspect that we do at the National Museum is to bring our work, particularly archaeology, to teachers, practitioners, and students in our archaeological sites. So in this case, these are two of the sites in Butuan. The upper photo would be practitioners and teachers and researchers who are viewing the Bonbon site in Barangay Bonbon. And the one below would be students. I think these are third-year students then who were brought to the Butuan boat site where we were having the excavation during that time. Okay. And then we make sure that our exhibits in all the National Museum complexes, because we have, I'll be showing it to you in the next slide. We have to make sure that the young, the inquisitive, and the restless Filipino youth should be encouraged to appreciate what we have in terms of our heritage, whether it's tangible or intangible, because they would be the next people, next researchers, next historians who would be doing much for the continuity, for the continued passing on of what we have, of what we got from our ancestors before. So this would give you an idea of what we do. These are the upper left photo would actually show you students viewing particular paintings and then making reactions afterwards. And then the upper right would be asking the students to participate in actual weaving of the mats, banig. And then below would be another weaving exercise, and this time would be a palm. I think buri palm ito. And then of course the lower left would be asking students or even the youth what would they think of this particular sculpture, which is actually the sculpture done by Rizal. So the crocodile being bitten by a dog. So in this case, we are already initiating the young to be conscious of our heritage without telling them that number one, you have to memorize this, number two, you have to do this, number three, you have to do this, because I think it's less effective than if you have to give them the actual initiation or being part of what is going on. Okay. So this is the National Museum Network. We're almost all over the archipelago. We have one in Batanes, our northernmost museum. It's called an area museum. And then of course, the southernmost would be the Sulu archipelago. In Luzon, we have not so many. We have in the Ilocos Regional Museum, and then we have one in Cagayan Valley. And then we have two in the Cordillera area. We have Kabayan, and then in another one would be in Kiangan. Then the next would be the central offices. We have 4 buildings, but the National Planetarium has been closed temporarily because we have to look for a bigger site where we can give the viewers a better understanding of what we are getting into as far as astronomy is concerned. And then the next would be within Luzon would be the Angono. It's a rock shelter One, it's a site museum, and then of course in Bicol. We will have more, how do you call it? We have more museums in Central Philippines, which includes Marinduque. We have one in the Banton Island, and then we have one in Panay. Then one is coming up in Cebu. Then we have the Negros Area Museum. We have Bohol, and now if we go to Mindanao, we have one in Zamboanga, and of course in northeastern Mindanao, what we call the Butuan Regional Museum. So in all this, we try to showcase or to exhibit what can be found in all those areas that we have, where we have the museums. So you may visit any of those museums or all of the museums around the archipelago because there is no entrance fee. It's free of charge. We've been doing that for the last, I think, 5 years. Okay, going now to archaeological researches with maritime connotation or inclusion. We have here the Manunggul jar as an evidence of the earliest evidence for maritime orientation of early Filipinos or the ancestors of Filipinos. Manunggul jar, it was found in the Manunggul rock shelter in the Tabon Cave Complex in Quezon, Palawan. Okay. If you have not been to the National Museum here in Manila, then try to look at the old 1,000 peso bill. It's on the verso part. What is important here is actually to look into this boat. It's boat of the dead, wherein the dead is being transported to the other side. Mas maganda kasi kung ang gagamitin ay yung Tagalog na salita, sumakabilang buhay. So there is no death actually. You just move to another plane. So in this case, we still use this to bring our dead ancestors or kins to another world. So the date is quite old, 890 to 710 BC. So I'm not the one who was able to recover or discover this particular artifact. This is considered as a national cultural treasure. So it's now an exhibit at the National Museum of Anthropology. So this is another maritime-oriented belief of early Filipinos. This is in Batanes. At least I was part of the team who did the excavation in Ibuhos Island, Batanes. And you get to see that the marker is shaped into a boat with the keel or proa on hand. So if you get to see, this is the artist rendition of this particular boat-shaped burial. And underneath would be the skeleton of the dead person that was interred during that time. And we know that this part of the area in Ibuhos is the burial site, and that part over there wherein it is called the Ijang would have been the habitation site of the people that stayed here in this particular island. But if you go to Batanes as a tourist now, you won't be able to see this area because this is off limits already to tourists. This is more of a research site, which we try to protect for succeeding generations of archaeologists or other people who would want to research on this particular site. Then this one is in Panhutongan, in Surigao del Norte, and we found again dug out coffins used to inter the dead during the time. This is quite, it's a lot younger than the earlier slides that I showed you, because this is more on the proto-historic period because of the presence of ceramics that were found associated with the burials. By the way, this is an example of a burial that was found in Panhutongan before. This was actually an accidental discovery because they were trying to construct another school building during the time, and they found this archaeological site under the school building. Then we go to Eastern Northern Mindanao Regional Museum and Satellite Office. Actually, why do we have a museum in Eastern Northern Mindanao? Because of the accidental finding by treasure hunters of the first plank-built edge-peg boat in 1976, thereabouts. Because as early as 1974, there were already treasure hunters in Butuan looking for the so-called treasures. Mostly these are ceramics of foreign or imported origin. Because of the discovery of the first boat, the local people who were our partners decided to ask people from another government agency to allot funds for the construction of the Butuan branch instead of a two-room school building. So nakita natin na during the time, it was also because of the enthusiasm of the local people of Butuan, the local government, they were able to partner with the National Museum to come up with this kind of project, which during the time was considered as unheard of. And then through the years, the local partnership between the LGU and the people of Butuan and other good Samaritans were able to sustain the operations of the museum. Because during the time, just like other government agencies, we did not have enough funds. And then in 2021, that small museum was transformed into a regional museum. So you may visit it and see for yourself the transformation of the two-room school building museum to the present day regional museum, which would house at least 7 galleries that would showcase the various artifacts found in northeastern Mindanao. So in this picture, you get to see that I think it was in 2013 that we gave a seminar for cultural mapping. So we have pictures going around helping us check a list made by our colleagues so that we will know what would be in that area. Okay, so this is just a picture of the excavation by National Museum archaeologists from the 1970s to the 1980s. So you get to see here, actually this guy over here is doing a video of the excavation in the area. Okay, so these are people illustrating what was going on. Okay, so, this is a very tedious task because you have to make sure that measurements are always done to find out how big or how small the boats would be, the planks would be, and the things like that. And eventually, one of my colleagues, senior, Mr. Ray Santiago, was able to draw this as part of how the boat would have looked like given this when these are the only planks that we were able to recover. So this is a plank-built, edge-peg, lash-flag boat, which before the discovery of the Butuan boats, people would always say that Filipinos cannot go beyond the shores of the islands where they are living. So after that, medyo nag-iba yung ating pananaw. Now we are considered as able to go around not only within the country but also in nearby states or polities. So in 1987, we have President Corazon Aquino then declaring the balangays in the vicinities of Butuan City as National Cultural Treasure. Sites where these balangays were found as archaeological reserves. And in the last part of my presentation, I'll be showing you one of the projects that has been that is being done by the Archaeology Division of the National Museum is to come up with an archaeological park. Okay, so just to give you an idea, why am I doing this? Because I believe that the Philippine archipelago, though it is found on the extreme right of the Southeast Asian lake, is also an important landmass when it comes to maritime trade and exchange. Because we are the last part, we are the last landmass that people will see before going out to the Pacific. And coming from the Pacific, we are the first to be encountered. That is why I said in earlier presentations that the Philippines is an important or is a critical landmass as far as maritime trade and exchange is concerned. Maybe not in the level of the mainland Southeast Asian nations, but in terms of the island Southeast Asia, then we would be as important as Indonesia and even Malaysia in this part, in island Malaysia. Okay, so with that, I would say that Butuan is an example of an independent polity during the time that participated in the Southeast Asian maritime trade. And although I have been asked many times, how could I possibly be so adamant that Butuan participated in the maritime trade in Southeast Asia before? I said, because you have the boats, you have everything. And then they say, oh, it's possible that the boats are only for riverine purposes. So I have to go against the tide, against the current knowledge during the time that says, oh, we are pang local lang. Sabi ko, paano yun? Local na lang ba tayo? Sabi ko, hindi. Diba? So anyway, going forward, in 2011, I had a chance to be the team leader of another big project in the sense that we have a bigger budget during the time than the usual small budget that I can only hire maybe 2 or 3 laborers. But under this Reviving the Legacy of the Butuan Boats project, I can at least hire as many as 10 laborers at one given time who will work with me for 29 days. And it lasted for 2.5 years. It doesn't mean that we were there 12 months a year. We were there for at least 2 to 3 field seasons in a year, because once the monsoon starts in Mindanao, then we have to go back to Luzon. I'm not sure if the Luzon people would know that there is such a thing as baliktad na klima na panahon ang Mindanao sa Luzon. When it's when it's summer in Luzon, then it's tag-ulan in Mindanao. And if it's tag-ulan in Mindanao, then it's tag-araw naman in Luzon. So we have this reviving the legacy of the Butuan boats because we have identified prior to 2011 that there were already around 10 boats, but we don't know whether they are still salvageable or we can still put it up, bring it up, or we will just be documenting them as possibly Butuan boats or plank-built edge-peg lash flag boats. So with the Reviving the Legacy of the Butuan Boats project, we had a chance to excavate instead of just one boat but two boats. But before going into that, I would like to show you this diagram that guided me on why I think Butuan was an independent polity involved in the 10th to the 13th century Southeast Asian maritime trade. So we have here center one, and then you have your Butuan ruler, the Malongo trader, their local products, which have been exchanged for other things like the ceramics. And mind you, ceramics are not the only one that people then aspire to have from our foreign counterparts. So you have here also your Muslim and other Southeast Asian traders. You have the Sama Bajau boat builders and mariners and the craft specialists for gold and beads. And we have to include this in our study, the physical environment. Maybe in earlier times, the environment was not always taken into consideration, but we have seen in the past decade or even earlier that the physical environment is very important to whatever we are doing. And we have seen it many times that when the weather is not good, then what happens to us? And I think for even the young ones now, there are two major disasters that already seen that has created too much havoc in our lives. One is the earthquake in 2013 in October, and then the typhoon also in 2013 that wherein we lost so many lives. And it created a big impact on many families or those who were left behind. And the reason I'm able to say this, that the physical environment is very important, and the examples that I gave you is just to show you how important the environment is, because I was part of the recovery and restoration of heritage structures in Bohol and in Samar. And we know how, and I had to interview people just to make sure that I know what I'm going into. I know what happened then, so that even those little things would also be included in my work. Because I don't just say that, oh, these are the artifacts and then that's it. Okay? So how do I do my study of maritime trade and exchange? I included here geology and the different sub-disciplines, geomorphology, geophysics. No, I'm not the one who did that. I met a geophysicist, a geomorphologist, another geologist who is a specialist on water. Another one would be a specialist on rocks, on soil, something like that. Then, of course, history. And we have to include in history archival research. What happened before we had all these documents in the Philippines, but other countries would already have theirs. So that is also very important. And of course, archaeology. You dig, you dig, you dig. But it's not as if digging is the only thing that we do in archaeology. That's the only thing you get to see as viewers. But most of the activities that we do would be in the laboratory or at the National Museum, counting sherds, trying to fit them together, looking under the microscope and things like that. And of course, ethnography or ethnology under anthropology, because you have to ask people whether they are able to do really build big boats or not. And I had some of my biggest surprises during this informant interview that I had with the different peoples in Bookman. Okay, just to give you an idea, this is one of the geologists doing the study of this one. They have test this contraption, finding out what is under the surface of this area in Butuan. You get to see this. This is a dirt road in the barangay going to Bonbon. But actually, the whole area was once part of the Bonbon, this one here, the Bonbon River Channel. So based on this contraption for the computations that Mr. Abegatula did during that time, they were able to create this map during the time that would show that Butuan before 7,000 would be something like this. It's not one whole piece of landmass. And the only thing that would be different would be this area here. It's a different time. And then the one that is in near the airport, it would have a different geologic makeup. Okay? So we were able also, and in archaeology, I told them that this shell midden was not geologically deposited because we found all these bones, shirt, hobble tool, and these are human remains that we found there. Because according to them, if this it is possible to have a geologic pond because of the river channel was already trapped, so that you have this something like this. These are land already, not solid land, but more of mud. So eventually you have that, and then this is what you get. And I said no, because if you find this, these are cultural materials, and that means people live during this time. And if you get to see broken shells, then you know that they have been stepped on before another layer of shells have been deposited. And again, through geology, you get to see that eventually between the 17th to 19th or between 18th to the present, this is how Butuan looks like now. But if you go there, I'm not so sure if it's still happening now, that sometime, is it in November or maybe October, that when the rains come, what follows would be flood. And I've experienced that the flood would be up to my waistline, things like that. Because the area was like this before. And then in the earlier map that I showed you, you get to see that there are more river channels that have already lost their being a river because of siltation, because of the so-called fault lineaments. The geologists would not want to call it as fault lines, these two lines here, bisecting Butuan, which would have an effect on the Agusan River because I don't know if you've been to the Butuan Museum, you get to see that Agusan River used to be on the western side before it transferred, migrated to the eastern side, and along the way, either infilling some of the areas, others were eventually lost to water, things like that. And now you have here Butuan with the Agusan River over here. And you have this very critical juncture that would fare very well during the early maritime trade and exchange. Okay, yes, of course, I love history. I love historians. I do archival research too. And it's really good to be reading about primary documents that were written during the time by early chroniclers. I cannot show you any archival material because it's difficult to get them. And usually you have to transfer your notes by hand. Okay. So archaeological excavation in Barangay Libertad. Various sites because we have Butuan Boat 2, Butuan Boat 1, then Butuan Boat 5. And in 2012, we have 4 and 9. So these are the old pictures. And it's really map format that you have to go down and be part of the excavation. Then we also did experimental archaeology just to find out whether it's possible to really bring all these boats to international water. So you have here two groups. Actually, these are the same group over here when they were working in at the cultural center complex where they did these boats. At least this Diwata ng Lahi boat. The reason I'm using this because we were part of the team who gave the technical assistance to these boat builders. These are Sama Bachao, and we asked them if they can build boats as big as the Balangay, and they said, do you have the wood? And we said, why? Because that's the only problem they have, they said. So it's if you don't have long, straight lugs, then it would be impossible to really come up with big boats. Okay? And their knowledge of boat building or constructing or building large boats go back to their ancestors. So this is an example of what they're doing there in 2008, I guess, building the Iwata based on the technical assistance provided by the National Museum. Then, of course, ethnology. So you have here, these are Manobo. Some here are Manobo, Higaonon. And I tried also to ask them whether they know how to build large boats. And they said no. It's not in their vocabulary to build large boats because they don't know where they're going to be using that. Because they said it's more difficult to navigate or manage a large boat in the fast-flowing Agusan River. And this guy over here thinks he is a Manobo, but during the interview, we found out he was adopted by a Manobo couple when he was 4 years old. Okay, so this is how they make the dug out canoe. So this guy here showed us how they would create the dug out canoe by making measurements using his hands, his finger, or even his arm. There's no such, they don't use the metro, no. There's no metro when they were doing that. They said, what is that for? And I said, okay, fine. Okay, just to give you an idea of how we use boats, because I think that's why in all areas of the archipelago, it's possible to see the various uses of boats, the various types of boats, because we use them for so many purposes. So in this case, this is in Sorsogon, the newlyweds who were waiting for their wedding car, and I found out, so I said, so what type of car are they going to use? And then suddenly this boat stopped in front, and then the groom brought the bride to the nearest pier. I think some protruding cement, and then they had to ride this pump boat because they leave the handaan would be done in another part of the town in an island. So it doesn't prevent them from doing their work, doing the activities because of the absence of a car. The boat would do it. And then this is a transport. As a transport, we use it everywhere. So you get to see even a dog can ride a boat. No problem with that. And this is not a motorized bangka, so they just use the paddle. And it is an all-female family going to another part of the island. So you get to see here, it's easy, just like riding your bike. So another transport in Pilar, no need for motorized bangkas. And this one is reusing the boat that is no longer useful as for transport in washing the clothes. This is in Bonawan River, Luzon. This is in Macau. This is quite amazing because the clearance from the water is just so little, and yet they're able to do that and then have all those umbrellas because it was raining when I took the picture, and they said, it's okay, no problem with that. I don't know if those Manileños or city-bred people can do something like this, because I have a friend whom I always go with in my researches, and then she's having a hard time riding the bangka. So she'd rather walk for a kilometer than just cross the river, if it's possible to have to just walk. Okay. And this is again another evidence why boats are very important to us. This is the Agusan Marsh, and the schoolhouse is on top of logs. So when the water goes up, then this schoolhouse would go up to the part of the upper part of those trees. And then when the water goes down, it goes down. And these two are grade. I learned from the barangay captain that these are grade 1 and grade 2 students. And instead of having a bike, because there's no use for a bike in the Agusan Marsh, they have the boat with them, and then they just make sure that they keep the paddle with them, because that's the usual thing that gets lost when they forget where they kept it. So you see that boats are very important, and then bodies of water are not supposed to keep us apart, but instead keep us together. Unlike now that we think that because there are river or there are streams, we cannot go to the other side. So these are typical uses of boats. And this one, I was amazed because I've seen this something like this in um, Luzon, and this is in Riau, Indonesia. They use almost similar boats, just like what we use, because I had a chance to go from one island to the other and then you know in this type of boats. And mind you, look at the houses nearby. It's just like those houses that we have in areas near the piers here in the archipelago. Okay, so going around, where are we now? We go back to Butuan. So Butuan is in northeastern Mindanao. It's a city with I think 83 or 85 now barangays. And then based on my studies that I've done before, we can group the sites here in Butuan. So you have here the biggest concentration of the sites that I'd be talking about would be in this area, in Barangay Libertad. There is um, a shell maiden site in Barangay Bonbon, which is a lot older than the the sites found here in Barangay Libertad and Barangay San Vicente. Why is that so? Because this here over here, you get to see this, the one that I've shown you earlier, was the choking point when the Agusan River migrated to the eastern part. So this area here would have been part of Agusan before, but now it's marshland. That's why you get to see all those um, palaisdaan and the like. Okay, so this is what we were able to excavate from 2012 to 2014. We have here Butuan Boat 9 and Butuan Boat 4. What is the difference? Is that Butuan Boat 4 would still be the same as the earlier boats that we have excavated compared with Butuan Boat 9, which is twice as big. Okay? I did not label this as the mothership. Somebody else did it for us because they said na it's almost like a ship, and we said no. But they said for us it's already a ship because by projecting what we have excavated so far, this is approximately 30 meters long, while this one is approximately 15 meters long. So in this case, you have twice as large as the usual boats that we have found earlier. So what does it tell us? That usually these boats would not have sailed on its own. There would be several to be able to cross a very treacherous sea. This is the South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea. So we know very well that it's hard to cross or to go through all that without an engine. So what they had was this timon and then the layang or the sail. And then, of course, by the time that between 1,000 and 500 years of between 10th century to the 15th century, this is how Butuan would have looked like. This one here has been choked, so you cannot go in anymore. You have to go through here to be able to deal with maritime activities. Okay. Then while doing that, I also had to ask for place names because they would give you an idea of what was happening or which area was used during the time. So you have Butuan or Bukban in this seal, ivory seal. Then you have Bonbon for sand, Tambangan, where you wait. Duongan is where the boats would stop, would be parked. Higad, they said it's part or it's in more secluded place. They said nobody wants to go there because it's quite dangerous. I don't know what they were trying to tell me that because it was hard for me to understand their Bisaya and they were also hard in explaining to me in Tagalog. And of course, why would be the shells. So we can come up with more place names, terms that are no longer present in the vocabulary now, but are good markers of which areas were used then for particular purposes. And then because of that, I was able to map out which areas, which of the archaeological sites that I've shown you earlier would have all these materials. So you have here the palisade in Toralba site here. This one. Then you have the wooden posts. So maybe there were large structures of light materials. Then this one would be the boats. Okay, we have already excavated 2 more boats. Then of course you have the shell maiden over here in Luna property. And of course you have your habitation and burial sites. Okay. Just to give you an idea, so what were discovered in Libertad? So we have 9 wooden boats, thousands of ceramics that can be categorized as local, the earthenwares. Then you have Chinese, Thai, and then there's another one which is not Chinese or Thai, but considered as Asian. And then we have I think 2 or 3 pieces of Persian origin shirts. Then of course the gold objects, the beads, and then the local and imported products, cinnamon, sugar, palm nutmeg, etc., and animal bones that may have been used as food. And of course, for the burials, we have human remains. So samples of ceramics. This is a very rare piece of ceramic. We call it the Phoenix vase. Then this is a chanchaware, which is an evidence of a 10th century or even earlier trading, because this belongs to an earlier period, Tang period, and these would be Song period ceramics. So those are all from China. Then you have a Vietnamese ware or Vietnamese dish. It's a blue and white. Then you have here, this is the Persian ceramic shirt, and these are the Asians. And according to my professor and mentor, Professor Misik, I can try to look at it and compare it with those found in Thailand, where Muslim traders were also residing in the past. So this is a different kind of ceramic. Then of course, the local pots, local stove that were used then. And then of course, gold. So I decided to do a small research on gold panning in Opagan, Bugsukan, Butuan, and this is what they found. During the time, the whole afternoon, this is what they were able to get for being in the water almost the whole day. And I think this is what? 2 grams. Then they said I can buy it if I want to. I said, why not? If it's not very costly. And they said it's quite cheap. So this is a special type of dish or bilao type. It's wood and there is a chute at the middle where the gold um, would go through while they are shaking this big tray. Okay, so some of what we found in the archaeological record would be earthenware molds, maybe for this earrings, for this buckles. Then of course the beads. Okay, we have different types of beads. Some are still not cut, so we know that they were making beads in Butuan. So I decided to come up with an analysis, elemental analysis of the four beads using portable XRF, and this is what we found. So when you have lead, you know where it would have come from. So things like that. Those are markers, which we say would give us an idea where the beads would have come from during that time. Then, of course, the crucible, which was also subjected to elemental analysis. So you have potassium, you have copper in those areas. So we don't know yet why it's for, what was it for. Then other materials that we found in the archaeological record would be this sugar palm, which was used to tie the planks of the boats. So it's arenga piñata. Now you call it kaon. It's the sugar palm in our halo-halo. But in the olden times, this is what they used to make the rope. We call it local nutmeg, so Alurites molucana, and some would call it lumbang. It's the oil, I guess, that is being used for probably for medicine and for light. And of course, coconut, the shell, and cinnamon and beeswax. Yes, there is cinnamon in the archaeological record, which would have been used for trading. And what is the purpose of cinnamon? I just found out in one of the readings that I did that it's good for our breath. So when mouthwash was not yet invented, probably you can chew the cinnamon. And of course, beeswax have so many uses. Then there were also fishing paraphernalia that were found in the archaeological record. So if you have baits as big as this, then that would mean you also want to get big fish. So this is the disc in spinal, the vertebra of the fish that was caught there. So magkaka-idea kayo of how big the fish was if you have a disc like that. And of course, the religious items. So it's not always material evidences that was traded during the time, but also ideas, but also beliefs and practices. Why would we want to have this? This is a headless mother and child figurine. What is this for? Probably. Or this one is a wooden icon. This one is the only thing that has been studied so much for the past, 74, 2004, almost 50 years for its Hindu impact on us. But how about this one? This is a different one from this one. And yet, those are religious icons. Okay, going to the last part of my presentation would be the planned Maritime Heritage Park in Butuan. So this area here, somewhere here, would be a core area together. This one, Yeah, these are the green ones are the core areas, and then the others would be the buffer zones, because we would like to come up with a heritage park that eventually not only Botswanons or Mindanaoans would be proud of, but all of us would be proud of, because it will showcase the maritime prowess of our ancestors during the time that we thought did not exist until the boats were found archaeologically, because we have similar constructed boats like the ones in Batanes would also be plank built during that time. But then we have not found in the archaeological record um, exact or actual boats that were buried. Okay, so far we have bought some of these properties, the green ones, and we're trying to buy some other properties. And hopefully we can do that when we can resume with the land acquisition once this COVID pandemic is over, so we can go again back to Butuan or to northeastern Mindanao. So before I end, I'd like to acknowledge all the people I have met in the course of doing this long research. It is still going on. Daghang salamat sa lamatunon. Terima kasih, because I have colleagues from Indonesia. Thank you very much. Gracias. Oh, this is the
Dr. Balonya, you are muted po.
Alec, as host, maybe you can unmute Dr. Balonya. Okay, right after her talk. Well, maybe we can just read some of the comments before proceeding to the questions.
Okay po. So reading aside the questions in the comment section, they are asking if they could get copies of the topic so they can use for future reference. We have Mr. Patrick Ruiz, who is in a group that seeks to revive the Balangay culture and maritime heritage through sailing. So he placed in the comment section to please like their page, Balangay Marina Sailing and Yacht Club. And then
Hi.
for those, yes po.
Nakabalik.
Hi. Yes, welcome back po, Dr. Balonya.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. I think I'm done. I think, sige, kasi hindi na naman nag-share. I mean, I'm done with the presentation.
I think you were cut off in the acknowledgement po. Baka you want to do the acknowledgement again.
Really? I just want to thank everyone whom I have met in the course of my long research, which is still going on. Maraming salamat, daghang salamat, terima kasih, gracias. Thank you. Salamatunon.
All right, thank you.
Thank you po.
Okay po. So thank you very much, Dr. Balonya, for sharing your knowledge about first the National Museum, then your researches in relation to maritime culture and the prehistoric maritime trade and exchange in Butuan. And then we shall now have the open forum. Again, for our Zoom participants, you may post your question in the chat box or in the Q&A, while for those who are participating through FB Live, you may post your question in the comment section. The technical team is keeping track of your questions and will forward it to us. You can ask one concise direct question and if needed, one follow-up question. So while questions are still coming in, Dr. Balonya, may you allow me to take this opportunity to share my comments regarding some parts of your presentation po?
Sige po.
May I just say that the photo you showed regarding the Bicky Bell Shell Midden, and I believe you know this already, I'm happy that the structure that keeps the midden from heavy sunlight and rain is sturdier and not anymore made of light materials po.
Sabi nga, kasi si Dr. Malvar ang I think he bought the place. He bought the property. And I said, maybe later on you can donate that to the National Museum. He just laughed, but it's okay. I mean, at least it's being preserved because it has gone through so many problems. Like it was supposed to be bulldozed to give way to the road that was eventually transferred to another site.
Yeah, and one time I visited there, medyo open na po yung roof. So it's very good to see that it's made of better roofing now. And may I just say po that the presentation on the Regional Museum is very timely on my part because I'm actually working on a localized module wherein one of the objectives is for students to recognize museums in Butuan. So this is indeed very helpful to me. So,
and also yung local government can always, I mean, not necessarily Butuan, but other local governments can still have their own local, municipal, or provincial museums. Hindi naman kailangan magpaalam sa National Museum to have their own museum. Saka, may tanong lang na hindi ba kami pwede ng museum pag hindi sanction ng National Museum? Hindi naman. You have the right to construct or build your own museum.
Oh, that's well noted po. Thank you. So we now proceed to the questions from our participants. The first question po is from Casimiro Lionel. The question po is, what is the significance of boat in the Filipino funeral matter? And he has another question. What is the oldest boat that was found in the Philippines and what province did it come from?
Ano yung importance ng boats? Because we always say that we have to sail. We didn't have cars before, and then being an archipelago, it was easier to go around using boats or rafts. So that's how important it is, and we are able to bring it even in death. They have to sail to the netherworld, yung sumakabilang buhay, and yet paano mo dadalhin yung patay mo sa kabilang buhay? So you use the boats. And then in terms of oldest boat, that would mean archaeological. Is it archaeologically excavated, the oldest boat? Yung nasa Butuan pa rin. Kasi we have I'm not sure if the one who the question was present in Dr. Ligaya Laxina's presentation yesterday, because she was the one who was able to obtain all those carbon-14 dates for the different planks of the 5 boats. So may 8th century doon na
Yeah.
ano 'yan, boat.
Yes.
Boat. Yeah.
Okay. From an anonymous attendee po, what is unique about Chinese ceramics that is more expensive than those from other countries?
Actually, hindi ko yan, hindi ako ang right na sasagot niyan. Kasi bilang archaeologist, as an archaeologist, I consider all artifacts as very important. But we have a group, the Oriental Ceramic Society of the Philippines, who can probably help our anonymous questioner kung bakit mas mahal ang Chinese ceramics. It depends actually on who is being asked.
Okay.
So I have to defer that to another specialist.
Yes po, understood. We have a question from Dr. Michael Canilao, but maybe Dr. Canilao would like to ask the question himself. Dr. Canilao?
Yeah, I know. Nigs.
Hi, ma'am. Good
Hello,
afternoon.
Nigs. Good afternoon.
Very interesting po yung slide nyo po with the sites sa Butuan po. And I saw yung Toralba site po, may ano po pala siya? Post hole or post? Kasi si Laura Younger po, she argued na may certain diameter po that is attributed sa mga chiefly residents daw po. So yung mga medyo massive daw po na diameters based sa Sulu, parang ethnographic data niya po.
Kaya
would you say na po? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead po.
Ang problema, what if these are palm logs? So I'm not so sure kung gaano ka lapad, but there are wide posts na pwede sigurong tignan ulit. Migs, okay pa ba ang aking internet connection?
Ay, opo. Thank you po.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
In one of the slides, di ba, yung where I was able to identify the sites where the particular artifacts, features were found, then there are large enough posts and maybe we can look into it.
Okay po.
Kasi medyo mahaba yung palisade na sinabi nung mga earlier na naghukay doon sa Toralba.
Okay po, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Tingnan
Thank
natin,
you.
diba?
Opo.
Bababa ko sa Mindanao. Kasi si Dr. Canilao is from the north, ang ano niya. Tama ba, Migs? North ka pa
Yes,
rin
ma'am.
nag-research. Ayun. Daling kita sa Mindanao naman.
Yes, please. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you din, Migs.
Good to see you po.
Thank you,
Yes.
Dr. Canilao.
Hindi ka nakita.
Thank you, ma'am Orbel.
Okay, another question po from Lorenzo Hipolito. Are there research grants provided by the National Museum for researchers to engage in subject such as the balangay? To venture with these types of endeavor would really require huge expense.
Wala po. Unless, not unless, mali yun. The National Museum is not, does not allocate funds for grants outside of its researchers and researchers. So what you can do is apply from, one is from NCCA. They have a competitive grant that anybody can apply. You just have to check the website of NCCA. I'm not so sure with NHCP. And if you are a student or a faculty or researcher from your university, then you can also apply. I'm not so sure if FSUU also have grants like that. Kasi alam ko sa university meron din. But the museum does not have that. Because we get our funds from the national government. So wala kami.
Maybe would Father John like to address the concern of Dr. Balonya or other conveners in this session? Okay, I guess there's none. So let us proceed po, Dr. Balonya. A question po from Carlito Kamahalan, an FB viewer po. Did Kingdom of Butuan exist?
Personally, the opinion is I don't want to call it a kingdom unless that kingdom is equivalent to the chiefdom, because a kingdom would have more requirements, I guess, and then mamaya baka we might equate it with kingdoms in the Western sense of the word. So it would be different because ours is more of chiefdom. Then we have independent polities that would be parang I am independent for this particular area, and then another would have another chiefdom, and then he would also be independent, and then mas madali sa atin yung chiefdoms than what we would like to equate always as kingdoms. Kasi baka mamaya iba yung parameters na gamitin sa kingdoms. Mas mahirap yon.
Okay.
So, if you will check some of the, I think my dissertation is already at the National Library, then you can check it there because I did not choose the word kingdom. It's more of chiefdom.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Balonya. Going back to the grant question a while ago, Sir Alec of NHCP placed something in the chat, and may I read? Wala din po kaming grants unless they are directly commissioned. Local historical committees, network members can request for financial assistance on case-to-case basis po. And we have from Ma'am Kim Darama, a co-convener of this session, ma'am. Dr. Balonya, thank you po for sharing that there is a planned Maritime Heritage Park in Butuan. It's something to look forward to po. Yes, I agree.
Gusto ko din matuloy na yon.
Yes
We
po.
have already bought some properties. Medyo nagkaroon lang ng lag because of this pandemic. Tapos yun nga yung mga ibang researches namin din in other areas. Like I was assigned in D1 to help out in the restoration of the church. Then also in Bohol for the restoration of some of the churches because of the devastation caused by the earthquake and typhoon. Pabalik na naman kami. Hopefully nga, this pandemic will go away and we can be there, go back, and do our work again.
Yes po, that we really look forward and hope for. Yes, Father John.
Well, regarding research grants, we provide research grants for our faculty, for faculty who want to do research, but not for outsiders. NHCP talaga siguro yan, or because it's our grants are our own funds that we provide for our researchers. So yun lang po.
Pwede po sigurong anong tawag doon, joint or inter agency, or I don't know.
We
Thank you.
we actually have project with DOST in biodiversity studies. DOSTs were they've been really a partner in a lot of our research work. For history, we've been working obviously with an HCP, but I suppose the OST has more budget. So
Medyo mahirap po yata ngayon.
let's not go into that kasi
But we'll find something good is going to happen.
Okay. Thank you, Father John. Another question po from Daniel Marcon. Are other maritime sites from historical accounts, oral and practice investigated for preserved archaeological artifacts still undiscovered. Butuan's floodplain silted over may have preserved the boats, which would have deteriorated if exposed to the elements.
Ano ulit yung question niya?
Are other maritime sites investigated for preserved archaeological, may undiscovered pa daw po ba?
Alamang. Yeah,
Alamang.
there would be.
Of course.
Kasi like I went sa may Carmen, there was a boat there that they wanted us to see. Unfortunately, hindi nakisama yung panahon. We were already there and then it was high tide. Then the current was very strong so we cannot go down. May mga ganun kasing so we cannot check on the boats.
Okay po. And I let me read this comment from anonymous attendee when you address on the question on Butuan being a kingdom. He said po, thank you for that answer. I also believe there are no kingdoms in ancient Philippines. They were more of landowners. The chief is the owner of the land, similar to present Philippines. That is why land grabbing still exists. Modern Filipinos love to own land and build their family and distribute it to their children. So while questions are still coming in po, may I ask a question? In one of your presentations po, you show the diwata ng lahi.
Mm-hmm.
My question po is, can the boat building technique or the method of construction employed in the building of the 3 boats for the voyage of the Balonya project be also considered an intangible cultural heritage on the context that in the present, to my knowledge po, please correct me if I'm wrong, in the present, people in Butuan do not build this kind of boat, that it was only built for the purpose of the project?
Pwede pa rin siyang intangible kasi yung mga gumawa naman nun are real boat builders because from Cultural Center of the Philippines here in Manila, they were also transported to Bading, I think. Bading in Butuan, same boat builders, and they also built the boat there na ano na nga ba yung pangalan nung na
In Bading po, it's Masawahong Butuan.
Okay, yung Masaw and then the other one. So ibig sabihin nun, the boat builders there, their knowledge of boat building can still be considered as part of intangible cultural heritage that is still worth preserving because eventually mawawala kasi kami yung nag-document din dito sa CCP. They were already complaining that they cannot build big boats because of lack of trees. Sabi nga nila, makiusap kayo sa DNR. DNR, hello. Sa DNR, because they are the only ones who have long lugs that can be used as keel. Yung pinaka-kilya, yung backbone ng boat na it should be straight. It should be of one piece to be able to build a boat that big. Kasi kung iiksi daw yun, iiksi din. Liliit din yung bangka mo. So that's one thing. And then when they were doing a building of the boats, they were still also using 4 types of tools na yun din yung nakikita namin sa archaeological record like yung parang chisel, yun din yung ginamit nung unang panahon. We have gouge, things like that. So they were still using the same tools. Maybe there is an addition of 1 or 2, but still the process of building the boats would still be the traditional way. Kasi pag tinanong mo sila, ganito yun. And they even have those rituals when to start building the boat or when to cut the trees. Hindi pwedeng diretso lang na kung kailan mo gusto because they have this belief na pag mali yung pagkat, the log would not be that strong. mga ganong paniniwala na we into, because these are beliefs that are still part of the traditional way of doing things. Yeah, yes, we can actually we did document those the process itself, just to make sure na nandyan na din siya sa consciousness. Siguro hindi lang sa mga taga Butuan, kasi nga pag tinanong mo yung mga
Okay, I think Dr. Balonya is again cut out. Ay, hello, Doc. Hello, Dr. Balonya.
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, I think I was not able to hear the last part you said because I think the signal lagged.
Oo. Siguro not with Butuanons, because if you ask the present Butuan population if they know how to even build the dugout canoe, ang sasabihin nilang nila, oh, we go to Opagan, upstream, para daw doon sila bumili. But if you ask those who live in Libertad, sabi nila, hindi namin alam yan. Tatanong na lang kami doon kasi there is even a day when these boat builders from upstream would bring the boats to Libertad. So may gano'n na silang interaction na naman ngayon.
But in relation to Masawahong Butuan po, I learned from one of the panels yesterday that it was already ceremoniously burned.
Yun yung problema din natin. It's not only with those boats found here in the Philippines, but there is, I cannot remember kung saang bansa, once the usefulness of the boat has been reached, they have this so-called parang cemetery for boats na doon na nila iniiwan yung mga bangka. But in our case, we try to salvage the upper part of the boat. And in some cases, yung baba, talagang inaano na din. Kasi masisira talaga siya. Wala tayong magagawang iba dyan.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Balonya. And may I read a comment coming from Dr. Rodriguez? Again, going back to the question on Butuan being a kingdom. She said land was not important during the early period. Wealth and power depended on one's following the land. It was the number of slaves, manpower that was important rather than the land.
Probably. Kasi di ba ngayon, iba yung connotation natin ng land ownership now with land ownership before, which is communal, di ba? So noon it's communal. Ngayon, individualized or by family or hindi na tulad noon.
All right. So I believe there are no more questions po. So may we ask you for your final words?
I hope many of those who watch or listen to my lecture presentation learn a thing or two, and hopefully I'm not closing my eyes and ears if you have information that can contribute to furthering the study of maritime trade and exchange. That would be good. You can always send it to me or send it to Ma'am Orbel, and then pwedeng i-forward na lang sa akin, ganon. Because people, one of my favorite sites is actually Butuan or Northeastern Mindanao, because I feel that the people there are very welcoming. Kasi I went there without anyone with parang ako nagpakilala lang ako na taga Manila, ganito magre-research ako, and they welcome me. I think maraming salamat ulit that people learn something from it, and let's continue this partnership so that private, public, and then local stakeholders would help in the preservation of our cultural heritage. Maraming salamat ulit.
Are you willing po ba daw to share your PowerPoint? Dr. Balonya, are you willing to share ba daw po your PowerPoint?
Ano yon?
Are you willing to share your PowerPoint po ba to the public?
Hindi. Kasi there are some photographs there that needs to be acknowledged. Kaya wag na lang.
Okay.
You can write the National Museum for those particular pictures that you would like to use. Kasi inaano nila yan, dino-document din.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not the only one documenting this. So the museum has a division that documents the sharing of photographs, illustrations with other people.
Yeah, in relation to that, I actually have a pending letter po in the National Museum. Hopefully, it will be granted po. So indeed, we learned...
Yun, kaya.
Po?
Ano kaya yon? Tungkol saan? Pictures?
Yes po, a virtual tour on the regional museum.
Meron po sila.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can ask them.
I already submitted a letter po actually to address to Sir Jeremy Barnes. Waiting for approval po.
Kailan po kaya?
The letter, I sent the letter last month po.
Sige po, kasi medyo nag-ano kami ngayon. Nag-organize ng aming mga activities. So baka nandun na po. Kanino naka-address? Kay Director Barnes?
Yes po, kay Sir Barnes po.
Ma'am, tanungin niyo po si Miss Nice.
I'm doing follow-up po with Miss Plaza. Yes po, I'm in contact with Miss Nice po.
Ay, sige po. Ano yan? Para malaman natin kung ano yung kailangan.
Okay po. Thank you for accommodating my concern po. So, indeed, we learned a lot so much from your presentation po. We also thank our participants for being engaged in our session. So at this point, please allow me to read the Certificate of Appreciation for our speaker. This Certificate of Appreciation is awarded to Dr. Ligaya Laksina for her presentation in the Philippine International Quincentennial Conference Session 11 entitled Early Philippine and Southeast Asian Boatbuilding and Gold Crafting Technology on the 9th of December via Zoom webinar. This session is co-convened with Father Saturnino Urias University and the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. The National Quincentennial Committee was created through Executive Order Number 55, Series of 2018 to prepare the country in commemorating the 500th anniversary of the victory at Mactan, the Philippine part in the First Circumnavigation of the world, and other related events. The Philippine International Quincentennial Conference is also in solidarity with the Year of Filipino Pre-Colonial Ancestors and the Philippine-Spanish Friendship Day, given this 9th day of December 2021. Signed, Dr. Rene R. Escalante, Executive Director of the National Quincentennial Committee, the Chairman of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, and the Chief Convener of the Philippine International Quincentennial Conference. The soft copy of the certificate will be emailed to you po soon as Dr. Balonya.
Maraming salamat din. And good day to everyone.
So before we end the session, we would like to point out some takeaways from this panel which hopefully will give justice to the presentation of Dr. Balonya. The National Museum of the Philippines was introduced, being the one responsible for significant cultural and natural properties. And since the focus is on boat building, the presentation was then specified to the different archaeological researches conducted by the museum in relation to maritime culture like the stone boat-shaped burial markers in Batanes and of course the Butuan boats. Then it was discussed how Butuan was an example of a maritime trade center during the pre-colonial times or the participation of Butuan in the Southeast Asian maritime trade. And this is evidenced by the different artifacts found in the different archaeological sites in Butuan. To name a few, boats, ceramics, both local and foreign, local and imported products, and many others. So at this point, we shall have a 5-minute break, and when we get back, we will be showing you a video presentation about the boat building traditions of the Sama of Tawi-Tawi. See you in a bit.
Thank you. I'd like to watch that.
Mactan, Mactan, Mactan. Nabubuhay sa aking isipan tuwing nakikita ang mga larawan. Naglalakbay sa malayong nakaraan, isang paraisong nais makamkam. Isla na kung tawagin ay Mactan. Mactan, Mactan. Kampilan at palasong nagliliparan, sigaw ng bawat pusong lumalaban, dugong dumanak dahil sa karapatan, naninais ang kining ng dayuhan. Mactan, di pagdiwang na ang kalayaan. Pasalamatan, laban ay napagtagumpayan. Halina aking mga kababayan, ipagdiwang ating kasarinlan, ipagbunyi ating kalayaan. Atin to Mactan. Mactan, ipagdiwang ang kalayaan. Pasalamatan, ng laban ay napagtagumpayan. Laban ay napagtagumpayan. Ating ipagdiwang ang Mactan.
Working Center for Intangible Cultural Heritage in the Asia Pacific Region UNESCO YouTube account. So please enjoy watching the video.
base sa pag-aaral na sabi ng mga ninuno namin, ang lepa raw ay ginawa nila para magiging tahanan nila kasi ang mga badyaw ay maari mabubuhay sa laot. Ang lepa ay nadiscover para may matitirahan sila. Kung saan ang maraming isda, kadalasan yon ang pinupuntahan nila para may makakain sila. At sa mga lugar na walang kaguluhan na mangyayari. Kasi peace-loving people ang mga badyaw.
Old people tell us that our ancestors were seafaring people and they moved in a fleet of boats. Nonan kami bayanan, Bogo naka, Bangka, Lepa, Pelang, Paraw. There are many names to these boats and they tend to move in fleets of these. Anthropologists would say they consist a moorage, no? Because they moor, they transit in certain places as a group. Our olds say that that's where our name came because we are magsama-sama, we come together in a group. Others also say that we are from the word Jama'a, which is Arabic in derivative, and it means the followers or the congregants of the Islamic faith. So whichever is the real origin of the word Sama, it has become accepted by most that we are indeed dispersed people, and yet the sea unify us.
Tawi-Tawi, if you would look into the map, this is the southernmost province or island of the Philippines. Next to Sulu, ito na po yung Tawi-Tawi. And this is border to Malaysia and Indonesia. We have 11 municipalities, namely the Bungao, the Simunul, where the first mosque in the Philippines is located, the Sibutu, Sitangkay, where mostly the agal-agal production or supplies are coming from. We have Sapa-Sapa, Languyan, they call the Pearl Bank of the province, Turtle Island, Mapun, Tandubas, South Ubian, and Panglimasugala. Tawi-Tawi, this is the only province that is predominantly Sama.
So ang lepa ay isang bangka ginagamit ng mga Sama Dilaut o kaya Badyaw. Kasi dalawang klase ang Sama. The Sama Dilaut are the Badyaws, sea dwellers. Gumagamit sila ng lepa sa kanilang trabaho o kaya fishing at saka yun din ang ginagawa nilang bahay. Whereas ang Sama Dilea are shoreline dwellers. Pero we can associate with each other peacefully and harmoniously.
Ang salepa naman, ngayon ay isa siyang traditional craft, boat. Nakakikitaan ng mga ukir, yung mga carvings niya, and the ingenious way of connecting the wood, the planks without using a nail. Yung mga nakita naman natin yung paano siya binibuild, di ba? And the way the lepa is being constructed, binubuo muna yung spine, yung kanyang hull, at mag-build up ng kanyang body slowly, ganon. The importance of lepa in the life of the Sama is that it used to be a form of dwelling. It's the house for the Sama Dilaut. It was not meant to be a piece of art or a piece of craft alone, no? So it was very utilitarian. It served the purpose of a family. It had the portion for the cooking, which usually is oriented towards the buli. Ubus mamunda ito is the entrance to the house. It's supposed to be where our front door is because it is the one that first connects with the land, no? So that the frontage of the lepa is the front of the house. The buli is the kitchen niya.
Iya pelang benipaki he kamatuahan bedoho So doho iya min lepa bini pake or bay pamayaan. Pelang jari rusab nihinang luma hay kamatuahan be doho. Paglai puas min pelang lepa nasab iya ni pake. So dalawa duya maka pelang hati na nihinang luma. Kumpit waktu bahao pasal balnya na kayo misalnya kayo diki-diki na ni kundo madalaya samba na tayo ng lepa. Maka dikit niya tao ngay ng lepa. Ya kay kana masibuto, masitangkay, maghinang kumpit. At minsan kayo diki.
Different talaga ang lepa. Ibang-iba. Sid dito ang luana ya lepa. Because lepa too, it has something that protrude, which we may call it as jungal. So doon, nakatayo ang head fisherman kung sakali. Kasi mataas siya. So pag lolocate ng mga isda, doon sila. So ang pelang, another name din yan, which is as good as lepa. Lepa rin yun. Ang mga badyaws, ginagamit nila ang lepa sa pangingisda. So pag nakahuli na sila ng maraming isda, doon sila naglalako sa mga kabahayan along the shoreline. So noon, the mode of exchange is barter talaga. Hindi gumagamit ng pera. Kamuting kahoy lang ginagamit noon. In exchange for the fish. Yun. Hindi gumagamit talaga ng pera. Because I was still a small child noon. Ang daming klase ng boats dito sa Tawi-Tawi o kaya sa buong region. Sa mga badyaw, we have the smallest peddas. Ang peddas ay maliliit lang. For example, doon sila naka-anchor doon, so yun ang ginagamit na as transport bangka. Ginagamit na pambili ng mga pagkain nila sa shoreline. Yun. O kaya paglalako ng in case medyo mababa na low tide na siya, yun ang ginagamit nila. Then the other one is the lepa or pelang. Pero ang mga sama, ang dami. One is we have boggo. Boggo without triggers. Ginagamit namin sa pangingisda yan. Pero maliit lang. Good for one person only. Then after that, we have a bigger one. Parang modified boggo, but it is bigger. Kung sakasakali pupunta kami sa farm namin using the shoreline, gumagamit kami noon. Hindi na kami ayaw naming maglalakad, yun ang ginagamit namin. Then the next one is we have biral. 3 to 5 meters ang haba nun. Pero malaki ang tiyan. Both ends pointed. Pero ang itsura ng biral is just like the balangay that we build in Manila. Sakasakali, may mga cargos kami tulad ng mga nyog o kaya mga kamoteng kahoy to transport from the farm using the shoreline to our homes. Then, the kumpit. Kumpit may maliit, may malaki. Yung pinakamalaki, ang ginagamit, pagperi ng mga tao from the island municipalities to Bungaw, the capital town. Yun din ang ginagamit for cargos from Zamboanga to Tawi-Tawi. Mayroon pa isa, sa mga badyaw, ang tinatawag namin damas. Pero dugout boat yan. Flat siya ganon. Then, sa gilid, without trigger. Tiririt and kurekong, tiririt are small, fast craft. Parang speedboat yan. Pero maliit lang siya. Good for one person.
Marine biodiversity, isa ito sa mga napaka-richest in terms of marine biodiversity. Kasi ang Philippines in general ay napapaloob siya sa Coral Triangle. Ang Coral Triangle, ito yung area in the whole world na may napakataas or with the highest marine biodiversity. Tapos yung Coral Triangle nan kasama ang 6 countries, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Timor-Leste, at saka Solomon Islands. Tapos Coral Triangle talaga siya because of its shape. Tapos right in the middle of that Coral Triangle, actually makikita mo yung Tawi-Tawi. So yun, parang geographically, we can say that Tawi-Tawi is at the heart of the Coral Triangle. Now, meron kaming mga studies na rin, initially, market surveys, na dito sa Philippines, dito may pinakamaraming klase ng isda na makikita mo sa market as far as market fish is concerned. Tapos, kung titingnan mo naman yung geographical location ng Tawi-Tawi, it's between two major geographic region ng Philippines. Ito yung Sulusi, at saka yung Celebes o Sulawesi Sea. So, kumbaga nasa middle kami. Yun yung Sulu Archipelago in general. Napaka-ideal for mga reef fishes na kaya you can expect na high marine biodiversity in the area just because of this geographical location alone and the nature of the islands.
Lahat ng boat builders, lahat ng boats dito sa Tawi-Tawi before are a product of the skills of the people of Cebu. If you claim yourself as a native of Cebu, you cannot genuinely be called a native of Cebu if you do not know how to build boats.
Yaon ko ito, Jipuk, Jawa. Paglahat kami ito Tungayhat, barangay Tungayhat.
Umul.
Naumul halam ano ko na magsyampo. Ya lepa bay matoahan. Dari tag na ito bay magpelang. Magpelang inan maghinang lepa na. Dari ya lepa nasubay kita ni talon. Niya nata kubak tayo na maghinang lepa na. Dari ya kayo lupa nga. Yaon na ba lupa nga. Kinabak tadas.
Bating gaya kayo ni nga.
Na buat badir bilulo.
Bay waktu dahu maingga bay banan po ba maingga ya patan na kayo lupa nga
May ito ba si Buto?
Aniya makapupuan sa dilo kayo lupa nga?
Luar Tawi-Tawi ilo.
Angay subay kayo lupa nga ni nga asandal ba
Ya lupa nga ito asandal matambelok. Ya tambelok dilaw ito. Asandal.
Anya gi kayo sa di ni hinang min lupa nga bay
Aniya gi bad-bad.
Bang hinang lepa kayo na kami mon subay lupa nga ato makajari kayo sa di palam.
Manjari rin kayo sa di.
Na
haltadas lupa nga haltadas. Dari panghapi na bad-bad. Ya ano na gagil.
Ay bengkol
Ya,
Ay bengkol
Ya bengkol ano yung lepa
Magsaga boting gaya na lepa ni hinang hebi ba
Na maglimandap pa.
Bating gaya hayabot tong na
Na
Bang maglimandap pa
magdandap pa.
Ani ni hinang lepa mawaktu botilo.
Bang kita lumanan niya. So kaunitan kita papata. Na maramtanon.
Ani ako boss kita bayanan lepa Agtoy maginuminom saga. Supaya angay
At supaya niya kapan na.
Dangay na tugol no mahinang lepa lo. Makaboting ka kabaya tao ay nang lepa.
Ya tagol ko bay pag hinanglepa ito, subur na ako. Ya bay pag-school kami na na maganad masaga matto asaga siyaka. Wakapito yung school kaya jari pag-animit sa na yung school bay magkobak na.
Ay na pa lahat bay pag hinangan no lepa lo.
Na tag na may tumatong nihat. Pag matahin pa yun mo pabalik pito, isampu na ako. Walong taon kayo masampu na, yan maghinanglepa na.
Bating gaya tangkis lepa nan bang magoyak?
Lepa di ginisan na dubalan sa ito. Banglan sa talong munda na balanang kis magoyak. Panghaya munda na nangkis. Na inalepa yan bang talong balanang kis magoyak.
Bay mandusiya kita kasamahan magluma malepa magsagadangay pamili mara kayo lepa
Bang lepa bang limandap pa sa garuang mataan sa gatalo risab na bang limpatambar na
Historiin min nga tadas tagna ni talo ni nan daka niya kapalipali mabulan gi kanibeya ay ka
nani mapalipali
ano history nusulin pa
bang talak bulan yan na panambelok na sabay man sabay halaman niya bulan muad na. Dari atagol ni ipat kayo na pa San Martin ang belok. Dari pag ano yan na maghinang lepa na. Tinagdaan namin tadas
Inaani maghinang na rapon bay man talo niya kato sinabi madilaw na kami man. Paghinang na ipanghapit na niya pinatok daw. Ya pa man ano man deo pasunod itada sina.
Ya tapi, ya panghapit tinan.
Dakay ro tapi na panghapit tinan. Karuan yan bengkol na. Katalo na kapi-kapi. Kampat na yarurong na. Kalima na dinding katis na.
Durung-durung at yung maritatongan na dinding hangin.
Ya dinding katapusan na ba
Design ya magukil malepa sumilan sa biya waktu na ni hinang
mga katis na.
Dapat tapos na daw ang
katis na balay pa waay na yano na ya jungal na na pinalihin na pinakutong na nilanuan na hinangan bingkay-bingkay na buong ukir na pagpalaki matuk na ya kapi-kapi
papuas min bengkol ay dahoy kapi-kapi pagpas kapi-kapi durung-durung pas durung-durung tampan hangin ay yan ukilan mariyam telo
na ya durung-durung ukilan dusab
durung-durung ni ukilan tampan hangin
na magbayad ng ukilan magbayad ang bardusab.
So basta durung-durung sa binukilan.
Nasa binukilan na. Pasal
kapi-kapi ni ukilan.
Nam bardusab.
Sa durung-durung
durung-durung makasa.
Hindi lang isa ang gumagawa ng malalaking kumpit, mga 4 o kaya 6. But usually 4 lang sila gumagawa. 2 sa kabila, 2 sa kabila. Pero ang proseso ng paggawa namin is shell first, then skeleton. Hindi tulad ng sa ibang regions dito sa Southeast Asia, gumagawa sila ng bangkang ganon, pero with skeletal system muna, bago ang shell. Pero ang people of Cebu, shell, then skeletal system. But we will always obtain a perfect symmetry. Yan ang sekreto ng mga builders namin.
So usually, based on traditional knowledge of the Sama de lo Sama Bajaw, tinaheka liknaya, niona liknaya pandoga. So pandoga to sa, yan ito yung original term ya persama. So in English or bahasa American, ditelik na sign, pandoga or sign. So according to Sama de Laut, yamit to ya Sama Bajaw o Bungaw. Usually, they traveled from Tawi-Tawi to Northeast Borneo. So until today, their boat has no compass. So they use celestial navigation. So most of the Sama de Laut, even during night time, sangum ba? Magtulak siya to. Tinanganda siya to Judyata langit. They look up to the sky, no? So they use stars as compass siya to. So indicates that starnan using for navigation to reach island or to reach a fishing ground or to reach target destination. So number 2, according to Sama de Laut, there are some areas once tanda sigam likna niya palantong drifted sa galik na logs, mga drifted mga seaweeds to So when they see this particular mga materials, meaning closer sila sa island na yan, malapit na. So talaga, niya itong pandoga. So niya itong navigation siya ganito.
Starting from sometimes age 5, dadalhin namin ang mga anak namin, male, during non-school days. Dadalhin namin sa place of work. Ano ang role niya? Tumutulong lang siya sa pagdala ng mga materials. But these carpentry tools are non-sharp tools. Later on, pag medyo malaki na ang bata, o non-school days, pupunta rin doon. Tumutulong pa rin. So, pag medyo okay na ang bata, tumutulong sa tatay. So that's the time, sabi niya, mga 16 years old na siya. During non-school days, you help me. Gagawa tayo ng bangka. Siya on the other side, ang tatay on the other side. O kaya, pinagawa siya ng tatay, another boat, pero just adjacent to the boat that the tatay is doing. Bakit? Kung sakasakali, mahirapan ang bata, he can ask immediately the father on how we will be able to install this particular part. Pag medyo okay na ang bata, nakapasa na siya, okay, you build another one. Kasi yung dalawang bangka na ibebenta na, Okay, gawa ka ng isa. Every now and then, ang tatay pupunta ron to inspect kung tama ang ginagawa ng bata. Until such time, pag tapos na lahat, wow, ang ganda ng gawa mo. Yan, nakapasa niya siya. And he can join now the skilled carpenters in town. So gumagawa na sila ng hanggang malalaking kumpit. So that's how we transfer our skills from one generation to the other. We cannot do it overnight. It goes with the growth and development of a child. Meron pa, pero wala na dito sa atin. Sa Semporna. Kasi ang mga sama na yan o kaya badyaw na yan, after martial law, the declaration of martial law, nagkagulo na ang Mindanao. So, alam niyo naman, ang mga badyaw are peace lovers. They are law-abiding citizens. They do not want disturbances. They do not want whatsoever. So the only way to evade this, they migrated to Sabah. So they stayed in Semporna. So if only our government took good care of these people, we can generate income out of them. So ngayon, the people, the government of Sabah, are generating income out of these people. Kasi gumagawa sila, they sponsored what we call Alepa Festival called Regatta. Every year yan sa April. So people from all walks of life will have to go there. And they can generate so much income out of this. Even from Western countries, pupunta rito. One of the reasons why wala ng LEPA, because of lack of materials. Scarcity of materials. Kasi ang LEPA, gumagawa tayo ng LEPA from a very, very big wood. Kinakat natin yan. Dug out yan. So ngayon, saan pa tayo kukuha? Wala na. So the only way is to use commercial woods from lumber yards. Ginagamit natin ng plywood. Kaya nga, nag-design ang Cebutu people ng what we call kurikong. Yun ang ginagamit namin ngayon. Kasi ang kurikong is somewhat flat, with flat bottom. Sa gilid yan, ang flanks niya, hindi na talaga solid wood, plywood lang ginagamit doon. And we can pass even if the water level is only at the height of 2 feet.
Kung nabibis sa lako na ko, ano ko yun na. Tantong ko, wala po niya nakan-nakan kaya kamutuan kami, pati na malay pa na alam tantong kami.
Na magpuli ka maya?
Habang tumisag ko yung mahaya, ang usaro sa manlay pa, dahil sa magbala. Na sibay magkowak. Bay tagnay, bay magkowak. Alaman niya sinsyung ibay. Kowak, ibay pa niya kayo libinila.
Kayo batangin na?
Kayo batang na na.
Hindi nga maano?
Napalantong sa gamay laot, tinundan na kami nibihig sa.
Ano sa maga, maare ah?
Naniyar sa baho. So, halam na niya, sir. Kalagyan na halwa tilo sa papan-papan, pinag-walir manamil. Na ko yung porta ni kayo ili na makakapul.
Kayo ay?
Kapul.
Kapul? Atuwas kapul.
At alam marusab so at apaw ng tambelok.
Angay?
Alam marusab tinigad so apaw niya matambelok. Bang ataha, mara sinugpat sir. Mga puti sinugpatan ako.
Sa gaya ba ni Kubak, kantag na asal kayo batang?
Kayo batang ako. So, panapin na bang aput na sinugpatan na.
Sinugpatan?
Bang ataha, rusab na mara sinugpatan. Alam sir. Kinanal, sabi ng kamatuan, kinanal kami. Naalog ko, bahanan doon makanan din kapul niya, gagil.
The LEPA is also spiritually oriented because when there is a dead body inside the LEPA, the munda is facing the Qiblat. The Qiblat is the universal direction of Islamic prayer. No? So for convenience, we consider Central Asia as our Qiblat, where the Kaaba is. The Kaaba is the black stone in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. And so when there is a dead person in the LEPA boat, the dead person is oriented in such a way that yung paa niya ay nakaharap doon sa munda, sa front ng LEPA, at ang ulo niya ay nasa buli. So in some accounts, although we have not witnessed it as mga bagong generation tayo na buhay, But there are accounts in the past where they said that the lepa was also used as the lalungan, the coffin where the dead is buried with it. Especially among the Samadilaut, yung lepa nila. So parang all-in-one na yun. Doon ka pinanganak, doon ka lumaki, doon ka tumira, at doon ka na rin ililibing. Siyempre sa soil, ililibing siya sa soil kasama ng lepa niya. May mga accounts of Samadilaut burial practice where they bring the dead, yung mayat nila, sinasama sa lepa, pinatulak, yung na pinatulak. It is sent off to its final journey. The lepa is paddled into the middle of the sea, and then the dead person in his shroud is made to stand. Physically, pinapatayo siya. And then, pinakuliling. 360-degree na turn around, pinakuliling siya so that it will be his last gaze of earthly life.
My apologies, Dr. Balonya, for reading the wrong name in the certificate. If I may ask Sir Alec to flash again the certificate for Dr. Balonya.
It is. It's the right one.
Po?
No worry. It's Sir Alec flashed the right one. No
Yeah,
worries.
But I mentioned the wrong name po. Sorry.
She's a colleague. Don't worry.
Thank you po, Dr. Balonya.
Okay.
So, since Sir Alec flashed the certificate again, so certificate of the same text is awarded to Dr. Mary Jane Louise A. Balonya. Again po, the soft copy of the certificate will be emailed to you soonest. Again po, my apologies.
Okay.
Thank you. So it was such an informative video presentation on the boat building traditions of the Sama of Tawi-Tawi. Allow me to read some comments from the Zoom attendees. We have very creative minds and hands of Filipinos. This should be written in our history books, not just how we are turned into slaves and colonized. And it's sad to know that other countries benefit more primarily from our very own skilled boat builders. So if you'd like to watch the video again, the link is posted in the chat box. And for the Zoom attendees, the Zoom system has automatically logged your attendance for today. So please check your email for the panel evaluation form that will be sent within the next 24 hours. And before we go, Dr. Feliz Noel Rodriguez, a co-convener of this session, will invite us to the next panel.
Thank you very much to everyone for being here. Wow, that was amazing. Dr. Balonya, Dr. Mary Jane Louise A. Balonya on maritime exchange and trade, which was an avenue for linking people and sharing culture. Thank you as well to UNESCO for the video presentation on Philippine boat building traditions of the Sama of Tawi-Tawi. This is sourced from the International Information and Networking Center for Intangible Cultural Heritage in the Asia-Pacific region. And join us for more deep and meaningful discussions on both early Philippine and Southeast Asian boat building and gold crafting technology. For tomorrow will be our last day when we all bring everything together. I will give a talk tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Please join as we put things together from the past 4 rich days of talks, really. And so On behalf of the Father Saturnino Urios University and the National Quincentennial Committee, we wish to thank all those behind the scenes, the conference secretariat, and of course, thank you to our speaker, again, Dr. Mary Jane Luis Balonya, and of course to our moderator who has been with us yesterday and today as well, Ms. Orbel Supas. Thank you so much. This is Feliz Noel Rodriguez with Kim Derama, co-conveners of this conference, saying thank you for joining us this afternoon, our last day for Gold and Boats, but tomorrow we will be putting everything together. Tomorrow afternoon, 2 p.m. Do join us. Thank you.
Thank you too. See you again.
Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. Really, I know.
Thank you.
It has been trying for you, very trying, yeah.
Okay, so once again, thank you very much, Dr. Balonya, for your comprehensive presentation. This has been your moderator, and may you enjoy the rest of the day.